whomsoever Allah Azza wa Jal chooses to be guided, none other can misguide, and whomsoever Allah Azza wa Jal chooses to guide, none other can lead astray. I'm very excited to be sharing with everyone today my favorite hadith, my favorite saying of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. And it begins, and it's often one that many of us haven't heard. When I heard it for the first time, I was surprised that we don't discuss this one very often. But it's quickly become my favorite hadith or saying from the Prophet. And it begins like many of the other sayings that he has, in which he says, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى, none of you truly believe unless. And we've heard this opener before. There are a few other narrations of the Prophet where he says, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. None of you truly believe unless you love for your brother or your sister what you love for yourself. But this one goes a little differently, in which he says, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يكون هواه تابعا لما جئت به. None of you truly believe unless your own desires are in accordance with that with which I have been revealed. Meaning that with which I have brought to all of you. This is the Prophet speaking, of course. And so it's interesting because there are many thoughts that come out of this, or many reflections that we can extract from this immediately. First and foremost, the Prophet is conditioning belief. None of you truly believe. And we know there are three layers or three levels of faith. There is the Muslim, the one who submits to Allah Azza wa Jal. This is a whole other khutbah and a whole other topic on its own, but very briefly, there is the mu'min, the one who believes, and then there is the muhsin, the one who perfects his faith. And so this isn't to say no one can be a Muslim, but this is the one level up. Again, it's not the highest level, but it's the medium level. None of you truly believes, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى. So this, whatever's coming next, belief or faith of this second level is conditional upon. Unless your own desires are in accordance with the Quran and the Sunnah, with the teachings of our beloved faith. And what's interesting is Allah Azza wa Jal is so just. We know this is one of His 99 names, that He is the just. And so He would never condition, specifically something like faith, upon something that was impossible for us to do. So first and foremost, we know that this is something that is possible. We know that this is something that Allah Azza wa Jal is asking all of us to aspire to. But the second thing that strikes us is, it kind of flips on its head the way we typically think about desires and temptations as these things that we have to fight, these things that we have to constantly be wrestling with, these things that we're constantly sort of our enemy, so to speak. In the same way we think of shaitan, the devil, we think of often the tradition or what we hear sometimes is about these desires and these temptations as things that we have to fight. But in this hadith, the Prophet suggests an alternative way of looking at it. He suggests that these desires can be conditioned to be in accordance with what is in the Quran and the Sunnah, to be in accordance with all the beautiful teachings of our faith of Islam. And that changes to a great degree, and there are lots of consequences of this, and we'll talk, that'll be the subject of the khutbah, obviously. But there are lots of things that start jumping out at us as we start to sort of think about this. And I think it brings to mind verses in the Quran where Allah Azza wa Jal says that He wants the easy path for us, not the harder path. And so He doesn't want for us, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ. He doesn't want the harder, the more difficult path. He wants this path where we can condition our desires. Our desires can then push us to do the things that are pleasing to Allah Azza wa Jal. There's an alignment now between what pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what pleases us. Our own desires and what Allah Azza wa Jal desires for us. All of a sudden, there's an alignment between these things. And you can imagine the kind of happiness and joy that comes from leading that sort of life versus this otherwise path of constantly wrestling with and fighting and winning and losing and winning and losing in this wrestling match. And there are so many ways that we can potentially think about this. But I'll start with, with this coloring, with this framing or understanding of what it means to have faith, what Iman is conditional upon. Lots of other verses in the Quran that reference Iman, that reference faith, now begin to make, I don't want to say a lot more sense, but we can see them under this light, and they begin to take on new meaning. And my favorite example of this is in Surah An-Nahl, verse 97, in which Allah Azza wa Jal says, من عمل صالحا منكم من ذكر أو أنثى وهو مؤمن, whomsoever does good deeds out of any of you, whether they are a male or a female, and they are a mu'min, they are a believer, using again the same term that we find in the Hadith, conditional upon the same condition. فَلَنُحْيِيَنَّهُ حَيَاةً طَيِّبَةً, we will have them lead a beautiful, good life, not a prosperous life necessarily, not a successful in the sort of conventional sense life, but a beautiful and good life, طيبة. فَلَنُحْيِيَنَّهُ حَيَاةً طَيِّبَةً وَلَنَجْزِيَنَّهُمْ أَجْرَهُمْ بِأَحْسَنِ الَّذِي كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. And in addition to that, we will give them on the Day of Judgment, we will reward them with the very best of their actions. Meaning we will take all of their actions and we will judge them according to the very best of what they had to offer. And so this good, beautiful life that Allah Azza wa Jalla is promising to the believers who do good deeds is in addition to the reward that we receive in the afterlife. It is just the dunya reward, the reward or the outcome or the consequence of living that way in this day-to-day life that we're living in today. Now, how does that make sense? Not how does that make sense, but we can dig in a little deeper and go to those first two conditions. مَنْ عَمِلَ صَالِحًا مِنْكُمْ, whomsoever does good deeds, وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ, and they are a believer. And so we said, if you are a believer, then you meet this definition in the first hadith that we started the khutbah with, that your desires are in accordance with what Allah Azza wa Jal wants us to do. What is pleasing to Allah is pleasing to us. And so now, these good deeds that we're doing, man amila salihah, whoever does good actions, good deeds, those good deeds are now giving you, those are in accordance with your desires. Those are your desires. Those are the things that are pleasing to you. Someone gives charity and it makes them happy. It makes them, whether we think of this as selfish or not, makes them feel good. Someone wakes up for morning prayer, for Fajr in the morning, and it makes them feel good. And they are happy because of it. It is their desire is to wake up in the morning. And so whatever happens for the rest of the day, they started their day with what is most pleasing to them, the most pleasing morning activity, whether you want to call it a morning hack or whatever it is, but what is most pleasing to them spiritually and otherwise is how they started their day. At the risk of using a very feeble analogy, I'll use one that perhaps is relevant to many of us, or that maybe we've experienced, or relatives or family members or friends have experienced. Let's assume you and a family member, you and a cousin, both go to a nutritionist. And the nutritionist is to prescribe a diet for you. And the nutritionist, this is not realistic, but the nutritionist says, for the next 5 years, or for the rest of your lives, you both need to eat nothing but broccoli. Now, your cousin has already been eating broccoli, loves broccoli. This is the most amazing news for them. They're very, very happy. Every day they are doing what the doctor prescribed, and every day they are very happy about it. They've got a smile on their face. They wake up in the morning thinking, I get to eat broccoli today. And not only is it what I love, the doctor told me I have to do this. This is fantastic. Meanwhile, it just so happens that my favorite food is ice cream, and perhaps my least favorite food is broccoli. And while this is funny, you can imagine three things happen. First and foremost, my cousin's adherence to the diet is just so much better than my own. Maybe I stumble. We see this ourselves. Maybe we practice to a certain degree, or we practice a certain amount of things, or we read the Quran a certain amount during Ramadan, and then maybe we burn out. And then we hope to kick it back up the following Ramadan or whatever happens. And so adherence is maybe shaky, ups and downs and wrestling, and I have to sort of, close my eyes and focus. But, and it takes so much effort and energy just to eat a bowl of broccoli. And likewise, takes so much effort and energy to not eat the ice cream every day. Meanwhile, zero effort is exerted on my cousin's behalf he's just flying through this. Adherence is 100% with no effort whatsoever. Second, he's very happy, and if you can't tell, I'm miserable for the duration of this. And it sounds like, according to the doctor, this is the rest of my life. And so he is very, very happy. Almost you can say hayatan tayyibah, a good and beautiful life. He's very happy with it every single day. And then finally, it's just much more sustainable. He can do this forever, and I'm going to the doctor every month and saying, I think it's done, right? We should wrap this thing up. Meanwhile, he can do this for the rest of his life. And you can see how that translates over into all elements and all aspects of our faith. The waking up in the morning, the prayer, the reading the Quran, and those are just the ritualistic things. The things of character, to be patient, to hold back our anger, to only speak kindly. If you enjoy the gossip, then it's very difficult to hold your tongue when you have something that maybe you thought of saying about someone else. Meanwhile, back to the analogy, the cousin exerts no effort whatsoever in terms of holding their tongue. And so what we discover is that there are so many benefits, not just in the hereafter, which certainly much of our faith is about, but in the day-to-day world that we're living in today. And in the second khutbah, we'll talk about maybe a few things that we can do to sort of get closer to this, what otherwise sounds like an idealistic expression. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه ولسائر المسلمين إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. So we discussed this hadith in which the Prophet of Allah Azza wa Jal says, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يكون هواه تابعا لما جئت به. None of you truly believe unless your own desires are in accordance with the teachings of our beloved Prophet and the teachings of Islam. And some of the immediate reflections are, Allah Azza wa Jal is so just. He would never condition faith upon something that was impossible to do. Therefore, it is very possible, and it is recommended and suggested that we condition our desires to be in accordance with the teachings of Islam and the teachings of our beloved Prophet. And that the conditioning of our desires sort of flips on its head the way we historically have perhaps thought about desires and temptations as something we need to wrestle and something we need to fight with. And instead, exerting that same effort and energy that you otherwise may have used to fight and wrestle these desires, to channel that now into, how do I find the beauty in all of these things? How do I condition myself such that these desires, what's pleasing to Allah Azza wa Jal is also now what's pleasing to me. And we get this alignment, this incentive alignment between what Allah Azza wa Jal wants for us and what we want, what we find desirous ourselves. And this is going to be very simple to articulate but difficult to do in practice, as many people can imagine. But it really starts with seeing the beauty in every single thing that Allah Azza wa Jal has prescribed. Knowing that if we were to have hundreds of thousands of years on this earth, we would eventually discover the wisdom behind every single thing that He wants for us. Knowing that He loves us more than we love ourselves, and He wants the best for us more than we want the best for ourselves, and He knows infinitely more than we do. And so when He says, hey, this is pleasing to me, first and foremost, knowing that I may not understand exactly why or how, or I may not find it pleasing myself today, but that this is in my best interest and that Allah Azza wa Jal, who loves me more than I love myself, has decreed this for me. And so I should find the beauty in it. I should find the wisdom in it. And I'll give you one very, very basic example that I think hopefully we can all go home with. Prayer, just because we get to do it 5 times a day. We get to speak to our Creator. We get to connect with Allah Azza wa Jal, our Creator, 5 times a day. And each and every single one of those has multiple rak'ahs a day. And just understanding that when we put our forehead on the ground, this is not a position we are ever otherwise in, and no one is otherwise ever in, except to Allah Azza wa Jal, and that we are humbling ourselves. And what do we say? Subhana Rabbi al-A'la. Glorious be my Lord who is so high, the most high. So we, when our forehead, the highest part of our body, what allegedly is dignified is to hold your head up high. When we put that on the floor and we acknowledge Allah Azza wa Jal is the most high, there is something poetically beautiful about that. Something that we don't do in any other time, the humbling of that. But then I think what's even more beautiful is Allah Azza wa Jal tells us to call Him my Lord, using the possessive. And just imagine that moment you're speaking directly to Him and you're saying, He is mine, He is my Lord, my God. And He has given me the opportunity to speak to Him directly, despite the fact that He has billions of His creation on this planet. And we know that Allah Azza wa Jal, we don't have to keep going down this rabbit, we know Allah Azza wa Jal's attention span is infinite. So He is very capable in ways that we cannot understand of having a one-on-one conversation and giving you all of His undivided attention while doing this simultaneously with every single creature of His on this planet. So we do have this one-to-one relationship, but it starts with putting our head on the floor, putting the highest part of our body, the most dignified, allegedly, part of our body on the floor, humbling it for Allah Azza wa Jal, who is the most high, and in doing so acknowledging that not only is He is my Lord, but He's also the most high. And every single thing that we do is sprinkled with all sorts of beautiful gems just like this. Fasting, we heard so much about in Ramadan. Charity, all of these different things. Waking up for prayer in the morning, whatever the case may be. And so much of our faith is about character, not just about the rituals, but they're sometimes easier to illustrate in the ritualistic components. And so I urge all of you, and I'm reminding myself first and foremost, that in every single prayer there's an opportunity. Every single time we have our head on the floor, there's an opportunity to reflect on the beauty of that moment, and it conditions our desires to want that more, to desire specifically that even more. And now in one domain, in just one facet or element of our faith, we've unified, we've aligned our desires with what's pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then we go down and we do this for everything else in our life. And again, to end on the exact phrasing of the hadith as a reminder, and also for those who may have come at the very end, that our beloved Prophet teaches us that none of you truly believe unless your own desires are in accordance, are in alignment with what is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يكون هواه تابعا لما جئت به. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك يا ربنا سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات وأقم الصلاة.